FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz, and today is the last day of September in 2019. Well, it's been a wild ride, and we got many more wild rides ahead for sure. And for the past few years, even before the current occupant of the White House managed to sneak in the door, it's been crazy, and it's getting crazier. Well, you know, it all points to something very specific, a complete total lack of common sense. Well, you're going to hear more about that in a moment, but if your common sense is saying you should send us an email, then send it to kl@kerrylutz.com. We answer all of about 50, 80 of them behind now. Be done within the next couple of days, but then there'll be more. It's just like trying to keep your house clean. Why do you bother? Because it's just going to get dirty again. But yet, futility of all futility, you keep it doing it. So common sense. I once heard it said that why do they call it common sense when it's so uncommonly found? Well, person who has written a book, Reclaiming Common Sense, Finding Truth in a Post-Truth World, by the name of Robert Curry. Robert, author, written other books. Well, this book sounds like it's really needed in America today. Your last book, Common Sense Nation, that should have been in quotes, I think, scare quotes. Why do you keep writing about common sense when it's like such a scarce commodity?
What a great question. Well, it's so important. I mean, the book Common Sense Nation was about how America once was the common sense nation. And when people recognized it as that. And it was the common sense nation because the founders' crazy idea was that the American people could rule themselves. And the founders' idea was that that Americans are equipped to carry out self-rule by means of the Constitution because of their possession of common sense. So the founders were counting on common sense for the system to work. And if we abandon common sense, if we wreck common sense, if we attack and demean common sense, well, we're actually attacking and demeaning the foundation of the founding.
Mm-hmm. Interesting premise. It makes one wonder for sure. But I guess what you really need to do is define common sense for us, because we always refer to it, we always talk about it, and yet I think many of you out there don't even know what it is.
Yeah, thank you for that. I mean, really, the new book, Reclaiming Common Sense, is all about that. I mean, what's been there? If there's a sense of puzzlement about it, Kerry, which you're reflecting, it's that common sense has been under attack for the last 100 years among the intellectual elite. And what's happened, is that it's been cooking there a long time. And lately, we've seen a blitzkrieg, a lightning war of attacks on common sense. I mean, now, New York has declared that there are 31 legally protected special genders.
Like peanut butter? I think peanut butter is one of them.
Pardon?
Peanut butter, I think, is one of those specially protected.
Oh, my goodness. I love that title. Yeah, they have gender blender and gender bender. I mean, obviously, they're, so in New York, you can get, you can be fined $250,000 if you use the wrong pronoun or they accuse you, one of these people accuse you of, violating their rights. So people are, the government is actually lining up behind this kind of, crazy joke. I mean, they're obviously rubbing our noses in it. I mean, peanut butter or gender blender. I mean, this is a non-serious thing, except that it's serious if you're a citizen who runs athwart of this ruling. It could be in real big trouble. And it's serious in the sense that it's what's really going on. I mean, the government is saying they run us, and they run us to the extent that they can violate common sense. Pretty amazing. Now, this is not what the founders had in mind.
Yeah. Well, we could spend all day on that one here for sure.
So to get back to your question of what is common sense? Well, common sense is classically understood by if you look it up in your dictionary, you can see that common sense is a power of knowing. People who have robust common sense, they can size situations up more quickly than people whose common sense is kind of weak. And philosophically, but not unstrangely, I mean, common sense is the factor, the power that human beings have to be rational agents and moral beings.
Right.
It's the power that enables us to know what's right and wrong, and what enables us to figure out what's true.
Right.
So lots of common sense not looking so healthy these days because it's been under attack.
It's not too common these days. It's not too common. So common sense, if we can kind of summarize it, is the ability to discern trivial from important, false from truth, and the wisdom to know really whether you're being scammed or not, right? I mean,
that's right.
Isn't that what it comes down to?
The person who's easily scammed is a person who lacks common sense.
Yeah.
But we all have it to a certain degree. It's the human superpower, and we all have the capacity to develop it more. You're college kid. You're a college kid. Doesn't have has more common sense now than he did when he was 6 years old. And if life goes right for him, and he's
some of them do anyway.
He'll right care of himself. In 20 years, he'll have more common sense.
Yeah, well, it just reminds me of my father when he used to yell at me, don't you have any common sense? And the answer at the time was, actually, Dad, there's a definite deficit here of common sense. I mean, one of the things, like he used to say to me, is, Kara, if the best thing that could happen to you is that you're not going to get hurt, why do it? And, my answer then was, well, might have some fun. Yeah, that just wasn't a good enough reason.
Well, that's the constant story isn't it, of the parent and the child. I mean, the parent has a primary responsibility besides feeding and clothing the kid is to help them get on the path to common sense. And while they're on the path, to encompass them and provide them the common sense that they lack by laying down limits and that sort of thing. And at the same time, like delicate thing of letting the child try, learn by experience. That's really the whole game of parenting, isn't it? I mean, if you stop and think about it, it's what it's all about.
Yes. Yeah. And trying to convey the ability, it's so much more than just common sense, right? It really is. It's a whole attitude and understanding of life, of just the ability to discern. There's so much more to it than just common sense, which is like, okay, 2 + 2 = 4. But even that has been a challenge for this bumper crop of whatever you want to call them, anti-knowledge. And they say, we're just following science. We're pro-science, you're anti-science. So it's this whole 1984 of newspeak and all this of just language meaning what I want it to mean, nothing more and nothing less, as was said in Alice in Wonderland. So it really encompasses all of life, because you have to have a certain amount of experience, wisdom, and discernment really to have common sense. And some people just never have any common sense, right?
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next.
For millennia, ancient pharaohs prospered from unparalleled riches made possible by Egypt's resource-rich gold deposits. But despite this rich history, modern Egypt remains one of the most underdeveloped gold mining countries in the world. But that's all about to change. Aton Resources is leading the charge on the Egyptian mining revival. As the only public exploration company in Egypt, Aton Resources Resources has first mover advantage. Focused on their 100% owned Abu Marawat concession, Aton Resources is advancing several exploration targets, including the recent discovery of the legendary Lost Mountain of Gold at Rod Ruin. Learn more about this exciting drill program and other news at atonresources.com. Aton trades on the TSXV under the ticker symbol AAN and on the OTC under the ticker ANLBF.
The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Well, some people really lack common sense. I mean, that's really true. And one of the ways that people can lack common sense is they can be in the grips of some insane ideology like Marxism or something. That limits a person's ability to understand what's going on around them. Mm-hmm. And another way, is they can be too emotional. They can be so emotional and so maybe into fun or fear or something that they can't understand what's around them.
Right.
But we all of us human beings, unless they're totally insane, have common sense to some degree. That's how we're able to operate in the world.
Or extremely low intellect.
Get up in the morning and make your coffee, takes an understanding of what's going on around you. I mean, I got a quote in my book that I like. Common sense in an uncommon degree is what the world calls wisdom.
Uh-huh.
So, we've all got some common sense. Even your young kid has got some. And even the college kid has got some common sense, or you wouldn't even try to reason with him about the crazy ideas he's learning in school.
I got one for you now. Okay, I got a question. Forrest Gump, was he a moron or was he the wisest man in America?
What an interesting character. Stupid is as stupid does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's what he said. So I think you have a good point there.
And life is like a box of chocolates.
Intellectual powerhouse.
Yeah.
There are intellectual powerhouses in the university who don't have a scintilla of common sense, and who teach the craziest things in the world. Safe in the ivory tower from any consequences from operating, from teaching and writing about things that really that wouldn't make any sense to Forrest Gump, and good for him.
Yeah. Hey, I could not agree with you more. And, it's pretty amazing that nobody sees this as something that's valuable anymore, right? They just see it as being old, stodgy. And I know I was the same way, thinking like my grandparents didn't know anything or my parents didn't. And then, there's that old saying, the older you get, the smarter your parents get, right?
Boy, that's a wonderful story, and I love it. And it's all about common sense, isn't it?
Yeah.
And my grandparents happened to be, magnificent people, well recognized in the community, the rural community they lived in, as people who of robust common sense. People would come to them for advice about things because they knew that my grandparents kind of knew what was going on and would be able to give them something helpful in dealing with whatever problem they had. Now, my grandparents didn't go to college, but I look up to them. And realize that they're on a great height by their mastery of common sense, by the wisdom of a life well lived.
Mm-hmm. Yep. There's a lot to be said for that, for sure. So how do we spread common sense and make it a virtue again?
It is a virtue. Thank you. Well, that's why I wrote the book. Thank you very much for helping getting the word out about it. The important thing is that, people in America have many people in America have become uncertain about the power of common sense because it's been under attack by the sophisticated elite. If you're a school teacher, and you think that humans come in two flavors, male and female, and the Obama administration says no, there's all these other genders, and boys who claim that they are have the peanut butter gender should be allowed to use the girls' shower room. What do you do? That shakes people's confidence when the government is opposed to common sense. That shakes people's confidence in common sense. So what we need to do as a people is return to the founders' vision, both the idea of limited government that they had. Founders would I don't think they would believe that the government is telling you about the special genders. Is way outside of what they envisioned government for, and return also to our confidence in our common sense ability to make the choices for the country. I mean, what the founders did was so great, changed everything. They put me and you in charge.
Mm-hmm.
As in a market economy, we determined what was going to be made and who was going to do it, what products were going to succeed and what ones were going to fail. And as voters, they put us in charge of the government, who was going to be elected, who was going to not be elected, and who was not going to be reelected. So they turned the world upside down. At the time of the founding, the whole world was pretty much like Saudi Arabia now. You had a monarch, you had a bunch of pampered aristocrats, and the typical person, and you had a person who had the ordinary citizen. They weren't citizens. The subjects of these people had no rights, and that's the way the world was then. Well, that's all changed, and the prosperity that we enjoy in America, the liberty we enjoy in America, is a gift of the founders' vision with the people in charge. And to a certain degree, nearly every place in the world has copied it, badly some places, very badly in other places. But the world is completely changed by the American Revolution. And I don't mean the fight. I mean the idea,
yes,
vision, brilliant understanding that really turned the world upside down. For the first time successfully, and really successfully, the people were put in charge. And it worked. What's happening now is that the country's going back on that. And the more we go back on that, the worse things are.
Mm-hmm. Agreed, for sure. No question about it. Well, hey, your breath of fresh air, Robert. It's really great having you on. I guess I should mention the name of the book again, which honestly, I don't think I could ever get tired of. It's such a great title. And Reclaiming Common Sense, Finding Truth in a Post-Truth World. Robert, really done a service here. You can get it at Amazon and wherever fine books used to be sold. We'll be posting it up on the site, and I suggest you check this out. It's really well worth your time. And hey, we'll be around for your next book, Robert. Don't hesitate to call.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed chatting with you today.
Likewise.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.